Well, I'm on the farm today, and I've got my John Deere 5055D and my Bush Wacker 12-foot flex wing, rotary cutter, bush hog, whatever you want to call it. And I've been on the hill here at different times mowing autumn olives and stickweed and everything else that grows like crazy that doesn't require any fertilizer or inputs. I just don't understand, with all the genetics and technology we have, why can't we take whatever makes this stuff grow and flourish and put that into orchard grass, timothy, alfalfa, etc. But nonetheless, it's just every year we have to mow the old pasture back there to kind of keep it under control. And the breeze is blowing. I apologize for the wind. Anyway, I wanted to run this thing on the John Deere and you know what I found. What would I maybe recommend or not recommend in terms of running this batwing, flex wing bush hog. First of all, I will tell you that coming from a 5-foot bush hog, which is what I got on my little Massey 50, to a 12-foot bush hog is an enormous leap. I realize this is not a 15-foot batwing, but this was the right decision for this farm when I bought this thing. I could have handled a 15-foot with my International 886 and my Massey Ferguson 1105. I don't think it'd have been a problem, but you know, maybe those tractors won't always be here, and being the way Murphy's Law works on a farm, it's possible that they may not be up to snuff for going up there on the hill. So my John Deere 5055D, which is the backbone of this farm, is big enough to run this bush hog. And a couple things. First of all, this thing weighs 3,000 pounds. There's a lot of steel in this bush hog, and the tongue is 1,000 pounds. The drawbar on this tractor can handle 1,600 pounds, probably just a little bit more than that, but it's 1,600 something. So I'm in good shape as far as the drawbar load, and in a lot of ways that 1,000 pounds is 1,000 pounds more ballast on the back of those rear tires. So if you're going up and down a little bit of a slope, it's really good to have as much weight on those tires as possible, and they're filled with fluid too. But nonetheless, I cut brush that was as high as that roll bar right there, autumn olives, you know, stuff that was up to an inch. There were a couple pieces that might have been 2 inches but not continuous, but you know, a 1/2 inch autumn olive, you know, 3/8, 1/4 inch. You can see some of the stuff here, and right over here. Typically a lot of it was like this, and there's one of the a piece, and just thick as hair on a dog's back. And in between it, these lamb quarters, I call them stickweed, and every imaginable weed it could possibly grow. And this thing just did great. I could run it for the most part to full width. If the full width was nothing but autumn olives, which at times it was, I might cut it back to where, you know, I was only, I'd you know, maybe leave that much off. I'd put the, what is that, about, I don't know, 2 or 3 feet. So instead of a 12-foot cut, you know, I'd be taking an 8 or 9-foot cut, which was still a great improvement over my 5-foot bush hog that I've got on my Massey 50, because the overlap on the Massey 50, I wasn't getting a full 5-foot cut when I go through there, except maybe the first pass. And with the overlap, I might have been getting a 4.5 to 4 foot cut, and it just took forever. So realistically, this is like 2.5 times faster than that Model 50 Massey with the 5-foot bush hog on it. And I mowed in second gear, low range. I'm not sure what the miles per hour is. Just slightly less than 540 PTO, 2,000 RPMs is where I tried to stay at on the tack, and the thing just did a nice job. Now I'm cutting almost as high as it'll go, because the idea is if you leave the stob high, when you run over it, it'll bend over instead of going into your tire. My personal feeling is that at some point the stobs have got to come to the ground, and you take your chances. My brother's got a tractor up here, and on his front tires, I don't know how many times he's replaced the front tires with the thorns in the tires. And of course, when I come back and look at this tractor in the morning, maybe all 4 wheels might be flat. I hope not, but we're going to be getting these autumn olives under control, whether we make hay on those fields or not, because it's untenable once a year mowing stuff that's as tall as that roll bar, because number one, it's really hard on the equipment, and number two, it's dangerous because you can't see. There's some stumps up there, there's some dips where, at one time maybe there's a little bit of washout that's probably about as wide as something like that. And if that thing's pulling against the tractor and you hit the wrong thing because you can't see, you could get yourself in trouble. So from a power standpoint, I really had no trouble at all mowing with this, and I really wanted to put this thing on the John Deere to try it out, and also to know that I could use it on the hill as necessary, and it just worked beautifully. I mean, if you had a 5075E John Deere, it would be even better. One of the comments I got on an earlier video, hay update video, K&H Tractor, he asked me to do a video on this thing, and he's got a 5067E. I don't think that tractor would have any trouble. John Deere 5067E, I believe I got that right. I don't think his tractor would have any trouble with this powering this bush hog. Where you're going to get in trouble is when you start going down slopes, and even with four-wheel drive, I think you got to be really careful. You're going to need plenty of ballast, and you can get yourself in trouble with one of these things on a tractor like this in a hurry. If this were flat ground, it's no trouble at all. And so we're going to be spraying herbicides on those fields up there, I hope, before the frost comes. And we're out in this, I think today might be October 15th. And so it's still warm. I think it was up in the 70s today. And our lows maybe have dipped below 40 one time, but we've not seen frost. And I want to get some herbicide that kills the woody plants but doesn't take out the grass. And we have to take control of those fields forevermore going forward. And then we got to come back in, late spring, early summer, and we got to clip those fields. This makes I honestly think I could do every field back there on that hill if the grass was only, you know, a foot, 2 foot tall. I think I could mow the whole thing in one day, because I could pick up my speed and and just go faster with it. This thing is just you gotta believe me when I tell you, this is a game changer, because we spend so much time on these little tractors like the Model 50 and a 5-foot bush hog going over acres and acres and acres and acres. Gets the job done, but it's not very fun after several days of just driving through these autumn olives. And so definitely a game changer. So what I would say is, the manual on this thing says you need 35 horsepower minimum. This tractor is, the Nebraska tests show it at 540 PTO around 51 horsepower. And I believe it. This is a powerful tractor for its size, I think, and handles it no problem. I didn't overheat. I'll tell you what I did. I'll show you the gauge here, the temperature gauge. Maybe I can show you. So this tractor, there's the temperature gauge. There's my finger. But I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little gap between the two greens. And that's like where you should be running with your thermostat normal. When I'm baling hay, it ticks up maybe 1/16 of an inch. Well, the worst case I had was it would go halfway between that little mark and the red. And so that was not because the cooling package is insufficient. It's because the grill would cake up with seeds and debris, and then the face of the radiator would cake up with what felt like, almost like what are these things? Cotton balls. It would that feel of a material, but it would be small. It was seeds and dust and some dandelion type blooms. And I got a brush in my toolbox, and I'd cool it down, let it cool down, and I'd stop every so often when I would get up to that temperature, pop the hood, wipe all this off, pop the hood, and scrape that, brush that debris off the radiator, and it would just cool right back down. If that stuff wasn't accumulating, I wouldn't have had to stop at all. And so sometimes these tractors, you see people talk about they overheat, and sometimes the cooling package is just not sufficient for the load and the PTO horsepower of the tractor, and they can overheat. But this one's never done that. But it got a little warm, and it's funny because you can feel the heat coming off, radiating off the tractor, and you get to a certain point where you're like, I need to just pull over here and stop and clean this thing. The gauge is saying it's probably about time, but you can just kind of get a feel based on the heat coming off the tractor. And but the combination here is good. I would prefer to run this on my International or the Massey Ferguson, but like I said, these thorns and these autumn olives are brutal, and there's it's like a locust tree that just shoots up in 1 year, and it'll get as high as that exhaust stack and about that big around, and they've got real big thorns on them. And when I would encounter those things, I would drive to the side of them and let the wing take on that tree. And that's one nice thing about this tractor over the International or the big Massey, is you can see I've got a fair offset on the bush hog to one side, and I can get up into fence rows and up against things without running over it with my John Deere. Now, one thing I looked at, and I thought I was going to buy one, was a 10-foot rigid mower and bush hog with 2 gearboxes on each side and a center gearbox driving both of them. But the problem with those is that the blades are timed. In order to overlap, one blade's got to be like this way, and the other one's got to be like that from one side to the other, so you don't have streaking. Well, what happens is you hit something hard with the gearbox on this side, and there's no slip clutch between these two. Some of them have like some kind of funky looking plastic, rubber looking thing that's supposed to absorb the shock. But I don't, being hotshot engineer, retired now, I'm not buying it, because when that blade at full 540 PTO RPMs hits something, and the object, like a stump or maybe a well casing, when you hit that sudden stop reverberates through the into the other gearbox, the center gearbox too. And so if you go online and read on these forums, you read about people, they're always replacing a gearbox on one side or the other. You just go up 2 more feet and you get 3 separate cutters. And each one of these obviously has its own gearbox, but it also has its own slip clutch. And so if I hit something really hard on this side, I've got a slip clutch protection right here that has, so that jolt may not impact these 2 gearboxes on this side at all. So, and then what's really nice about the 12-foot is I'm basically cutting with 3 4-foot bush hogs. And so the tendency to scalp is minimized, at least from side to side. If you go over a dip like that, you can scalp a little bit, but even then, you can see there's a substantial offset from here coming back this way to these 2 gearboxes. In order to set the height, I don't rely on the PTO. I'm sorry, I don't rely on the hydraulic lift and the position control. And even in the manual, they talk about this. And I've got these cylinder stops. And so I've set them according to, how much drop I want, and that's where it goes. And then you put your hydraulic lever in float, and that lets these wings just kind of go up and down and follow the contour. And even with that, there's a big slot in here for this thing to go up and down. And on the tongue, the tongue can rotate like that, but it also has a clevis down here that pivots up and down. So no matter what kind of terrain you're going over, that hitch can pivot in all axes, up and down, side to side, in order to not to twist your drawbar off, I guess. But anyway, I've done about as much as I can do on the hill up there where I feel safe. And so I'll be using the Massey 50 and the 5-foot bush hog yet. And my brother, he'll be in there doing his thing too. But before I blew this thing off and put it away, I wanted to make a video about, my thoughts on it. And if I think of something else, I'll make another video. But yeah, this is a Bush Wacker MD144, and it's on a John Deere 5055D. And fluid in the tires, weights on the front, and it's just a good match. Like I said, 35 horsepower is the minimum horsepower. I think you could run it on that on level ground, but if you start going up a hill, 35 horsepower tractor probably weighs a lot less than that thing, so you might get in trouble. I would just caution if you're using one of these things to think twice before you get on a hill with it, because it could be potentially dangerous. And just because I do it doesn't mean that you should do it. And like I said just a second ago, I'm done with this thing on the areas that I think, where it's safe, where I can put this thing and I feel safe doing it. So, but yeah, the Bush Wacker MD-144, John Deere 5055D, backbone of the farm. We're going to clean this thing up, and I've probably got some trimming up to do down here a little bit, and I may take it back on the hill and do a little trimming that where I'm not in any kind of jeopardy, but just a lot of that would just be the thing sticking out past the wheel, getting up against fence rows and things like that. But ready to move on to other things here on the farm. So we'll talk to you later.